Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DePINed Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Trowbridge. We're excited to bring you interviews with the key founders in the DePIN landscape, investors, and ecosystem partners. This is an exciting time for DePIN, and this year we're going to be meeting even more founders, learning about the projects that they're building, about the traction they're getting, and about the revenue that they're generating. The podcast is brought to you by Fluence. Fluence is building a decentralized compute platform. It's a project I'm a co-founder of and really excited about. So buckle up for this year. Please subscribe to the channel, listen to us on Spotify or Apple. And of course, if you are around any of the large conferences, come to our DePIN Day, where you can meet these founders on the Fluence team in person and hear from all the ecosystem partners as well. So look forward to seeing you in person, and let's get going on this podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DePINed Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Trowbridge. I'm here with Luis, co-founder of Mawari, the Immersive Compute Network. Welcome, Luis.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here finally.
And listen, for people who've been to DePIN Days, you may have seen Luis because he's presented at, is it 2 or 3 of them? How many have you presented at?
This year, all of them, actually.
Yeah. So a lot. So he's been a huge supporter of DePIN Day. So and that's, really appreciate that, because that means he's really helping support the DePIN ecosystem by helping us put those events on. So thank you for that. And for those who haven't seen you at DePIN Day, give us just a quick high level on, and we'll dig in a lot more detail on what you mean by Immersive Compute Network.
Sure. Okay, so why did we come with the Immersive Compute Network? Is because there are a lot of DePINs that, for example, they say, we provide decentralized storage, we provide decentralized compute, we just provide decentralized AI. So it's a little bit more broad and generic, but we started the company as a Web2 company to solve a very specific problem, which is the streaming of immersive content, or XR per se. And we use DePIN to scale this specific use case. So therefore, it just made sense to us, like, okay, so we are the Immersive Compute Network, because that compute that we're orchestrating in a decentralized way is specifically to stream 3D content into the new devices.
Gotcha. And so help us understand the requirements for that. So what I think you're getting at is that we're going to be streaming new content. We are streaming new content. It's much more bandwidth intensive. And so I think what you're getting at is that the requirements for immersive content are different than what we've built these systems for historically. And that's why your solution is needed. Is that right?
That is correct. Okay, so yeah, we have had CDNs and video streaming just like this one for quite a while, but it does require more compute, more bandwidth, and lower latency. This is for a couple of specific reasons. So in 3D, and especially in AR and VR, you have different point of view. So for example, here in 2D video, you have a fixed camera, and anybody that is looking at this can be looking at it from a different perspective, but still the same fixed camera angle, right? But when it comes to 3D, so if you move your head, your point of view is different, and the other user is also having a very different point of view. It could be looking at the same scene from behind or from the side. That needs real-time rendering of the scene. That is a one-to-one. It's not generalized. So, for example, video broadcast is you render the same frame and distribute to everyone. Here, what we understood very early when we were building this 3D streaming technology is that it's not about distributing pixels, but it's actually distributing the compute and the application. So the application needs to be nearby the end user so that it can render and do that interaction in with low latency in real time. Because so we have 2 frame rates in AR and VR, 60 frames per second and 90 frames per second. So that means that when you put on the glasses, you're seeing things at 60 hertz or at 90 hertz, right? And that is the refresh rate of the display. So if you have a very big latency between the refresh of the screen and what you're sending from the image, it looks like a screen lock. And secondly, it creates motion sickness, so it makes you throw up, etc., etc. This is why if you think about the VR headsets, they started wired because they needed that sub 10 millisecond latency to provide the correct refresh rate on the display. And then still now the Oculus now is wireless because it has a slightly higher GPU, but still all the circuit is integrated, right? So the latency is very low. So, but there's a big problem here. Okay, so now Mark Zuckerberg announced the Meta Raven displays, right? So they are sacrificing a lot of that compute power and to actually make the form factor that end users will actually like. So that means that we need to remove the compute, which is 3D rendering, it's AI inferencing into the near edge, and really do that back and forth communication with very low latency. Otherwise, there's not a natural interaction. So this needs a very distinct approach in architecture, because instead of just centralizing compute and like right now you have big clusters of AI training, is the other way around. We need to distribute the inference close to the end user. We need to distribute the rendering close to the end user, and it needs to be readily available for this user to interact with this new content.
Gosh, that makes a ton of sense. And what that sounds like is it's an edge network, an edge compute network, for which the initial or only, but certainly initial use case is the AR and VR compute, which is used for rendering, more or less, right?
Correct.
In real time.
And as we are, one of our fifth use cases was actually digital humans that are AI powered. Now they're called AI agents on ChatGPT with a face and a body. So that also if you compound into the same pipeline the inferencing and the rendering, it makes it cost efficient as well. So there are so many reasons our use case is actually native to DePIN, and it can only be done with DePIN. So it's a very unique situation, but a very good one for DePIN.
Well, that definitely let's get into that. But I want to, before we get into it, let's back up for a second and talk about you. What's your background? What was your journey to get here?
Well, my background, I'm originally from Mexico, but world citizen, lived in Germany in my teenager days, then moved to the then I've been living in Asia now for more than 15 years, mainly Japan. And in school, I went to mathematics, but not applied math, just theoretical math. You know, those crazy people that think about the fundamental theorems and how to solve problems that nobody care about in the end. But that was actually a very good foundation for what we're doing here, which is connecting dots that were not connected before. And I started my career interestingly enough, because as a math professor in Mexico, you cannot make much money. So I started as a sound designer, actually. So I have that other side of myself that is much more creative, and started making sound design for commercials, for video games. And that's when I started getting more into coding, because part of my university anyways, it was computer science plus theoretical math. And then when I arrived to Japan, is when I was started getting into tech, data science, digital marketing. And finally, that was 2017. Not 2016, actually, we co-founded a digital arts festival. Takeo, one of the other co-founders of Mawari, and I. That's when we saw there was a huge gap between, content creators trying to explore cutting edge technology and actual distribution and creation. That's how we said, okay, we need to create a company that helps accelerate the arrival of this immersive content. From the other side, as I say, I've been always involved in creative technology. But my first interaction with VR was very early, was in the 90s when Nintendo launched the Virtual Boy. That actually kind of changed my life, and I've been always hooked with this technology.
Really interesting. And so you founded Mawari in what year in Japan? Was that, did you say it was 17?
2017.
17.
2017. So yeah, we're
Great.
an old
So,
company.
right, which is interesting because you were doing it before the DePIN name existed, right? That was the
Correct.
era of Filecoin starting and Helium were sort of kicking off then, but no one referred to it as DePIN. And so I guess it's interesting to use that. And you mentioned in the previous kind of discussion how this solution is only possible with DePIN. And my guess is you were orchestrating and trying to build the sort of edge network using DePIN concepts, but before the sector really had a name and was mature. And not that it's mature now; it's obviously still growing, but that I'm guessing a lot of things have come together to make what you're building more achievable over the past, 5, 6 years.
Correct. So that's exactly it. We actually got inspired by the likes of Filecoin, Helium, and Render. But also, DePIN is not only, from my point of view, is not just technology and how to solve a problem in a technological way. It's also how to solve a business model problem. Is the basics of economics, and in the end, and why even without knowing that we were getting into DePIN, we went in that way, was because our core mission was to create the streaming technology. So think about, like, they've been calling us MP3 of AR, et cetera, and we just needed to create a framework and a network that will allow us to scale. So the first assumption was, okay, let's partner with AWS and let's just build a Fastly or something like that. But to our surprise, we thought that they would have like graphic rendering GPUs everywhere in the world, and they had very specific locations and with very limited availability. So even though we started gaining traction with important clients, we could not scale, and it was tough because so the AR and VR industry in 2017 was way too early. Now it's very different as you see the classes and what's happening almost 8 years later. So when we saw, okay, so we've been building this technology for almost 5 years and now we cannot scale it. So it's like, okay, do we need to wait another 5 to 10 years, or do we find somewhere else how to solve the problem? That's when we started exploring, decentralization, Web3, and we found out, okay, it's possible to actually get more supply without having to raise billions of dollars and build infrastructure that will become obsolete once the use case is validated. Because that's what's the other problem. It's like, I would talk to VCs in Silicon Valley and they would say, okay, yeah, you have very good technology, but go ahead, raise a big round, set up your own data centers and get Snapchat as a client, for example. That was one of the advices. But yeah, so okay, NVIDIA's releasing GPUs every 6 months. So by the time XR picks up and becomes massive, these GPUs are obsolete. So it didn't make sense. And this is why with the concept of also Uber, like unutilized resources. Okay, so who has GPUs that are either not using or have underutilized use? Let's try to orchestrate them. That's how we connected the dots, and it was that aha moment. We joined the Outlier Ventures, the Basecamp, to understand more about Web3, and that's when we finally were able to raise. But that was the second challenge. Is okay, but decentralized systems are slow. They're resilient, they're robust, but they're slow. Can you really? Your use case requires low latency at the edge. Can you really make it happen? So a lot of iterations after we raised, but we actually did prove that, okay, so it's a modular system in which the validation of the content on chain, is asynchronous to the orchestration. But the the most important function of DePIN here is this active quality of service checking, so that the moment the end user needs the content, we have in our database, basically, which are the good actor GPUs and which ones are the ones that don't have the quality needed for the service.
Really interesting. Well, let's talk about that architecture a little bit, because what you're referencing is obviously pretty ambitious. So when you think about it, where are you in terms of deploying that network, and how do you quantify it in terms of servers or geographies or locations, or how do you kind of put that in words and metrics that people can grasp?
We have the network is indeed complicated and is modular. So we have 4 type of nodes. So we have the traditional blockchain node, which we call it the guardian node, which is a validator, verificator of data. It's not a proof of work per se, but it's similar to proof of work in the sense that it verifies the quality of the stream and that the content was actually not tampered, etc., etc. So we have quite a strict set of rules. Then we have the streamer node, which is a GPU that needs to, for the time being, needs to live on the enterprise. So it's still distributed, but it's more reliable. We're working with enterprise clients for providing this type of GPUs. Then we have the quality of service node, which that also is a centralized or semi-centralized service that allows to check the quality of the GPUs and make sure that they're ready to stream. And then we have a Pulse node, which is an end user application that is always checking the telemetry and all the data so that we can have a good map of how the network conditions look like. So that's in a nutshell the 4 things. Now, how it works, think about like, okay, so you got content in the classes, so just establish a peer-to-peer connection with one of our streaming servers. That streaming server sends a log to the Guardian node, and these end user devices also send a log to the Guardian node. The Guardian node makes sure that the data matches and that the service was provided at the right quality, with low latency, with high bandwidth, with and the content, the render blocks correctly. Then we build a consensus, and that consensus then distribute the rewards. So it's kind of like a proof of work in the end. Now we are starting mainly in Japan because that's where we started the company and when we have most of our use cases. In terms of GPUs, we have a couple partners, and we have onboarded close to more than 5,000 GPUs that are exclusively in the APAC region. And in terms of Guardian nodes, so far we started what we call the DIO, Decentralized Infrastructure Offering, because there were a lot of last year node sales, but there were not even DePIN projects. They were projects that maybe don't even need a node. They just call it a node. So we wanted to differentiate because we are a true DePIN project. So that's why we call it DIO. It has been successful. Right now we have about 150,000 Guardian nodes committed, and hopefully very soon we will go on mainnet. We've been stress testing the Guardian node network, and the next step is to actually orchestrate the Guardian node network in compass of the GPU network. We are in talks with a couple important clients that will bring in the streaming demand in Japan. So 2026 is very exciting because 2024 was to prove that we can make it happen. 2025 has been the bootstrapping of the supply and demand, and 2026 is the year to put everything together.
Really interesting. Well, I guess if you look at that, if you look at your architecture and build out, you mentioned 5,000 GPUs connected, which is great. Is that the gating item? It sounds like if you look at your network, nothing happens without the GPUs to do the rendering of the video content, right? So as you scale, the most important thing is to scale those GPUs by number and probably by geography as you expand to different markets. Is that right?
That's correct. And think about even more in the Web2 way, like Uber. Uber started in the specific cities, and as they started earning demand and popularity, they started rolling out to other locations. So that's also how I see extended reality becoming mainstream. So think about arcades. When we were kids, we went to play video games to the arcades before there were consoles at home, right? So it is exactly the same for XR. Now there are a lot of VR and mixed reality arcades that's starting to become very popular, and because they have the right set of conditions and content for people to say, okay, I'm willing to pay for this. So we see that is one of the endpoints for adoption of this technology. The second one is the practicality of these classes that will give you like your day-to-day applications, messages, video calls, etc., and it will converge. But at this point, the streaming of content is more on the location base, so we're doing regional rollouts. You're completely right. That's the neck, and we will do it in a very strategic way, because if we just open it everywhere and we don't have demand for that specific region, then it becomes a problem.
Or you've got demand for customers and not the GPUs to serve it. Also not great. You kind of need both.
Correct.
And out of curiosity, what are your type of customers? Who are the groups that are engaged that are generating this content that has to be edge rendered?
So we have two types of use cases that has been even the reason why we created technology. So, and both have to deal with digital humans or avatars per se. So there are two types of avatars in XR. One avatar is the one that is puppeted by a human, so it's controlled by a human in real time, and the other one is controlled by AI. The control by AI, I think, is pretty obvious. There are digital assistants. So, for example, if you go to a shop and you see an LED screen with a human there and it's being rendered and is talking to you in real time, these digital assistants, especially in Japan, are becoming very important because there's a huge problem of an aging population and very slow immigration rules. So there's not enough workforce, and especially in rural areas outside Tokyo. So AI and this embodied AI has been core strategy of Japan since 2017. So those are the type of clients that we have, enterprises that are starting to set up customer service in agents and in the shape of AI. The second one that actually is the one that is booming and is giving us most of the demand is there's a trend called the virtual YouTubers. So, okay, it's creator economy. So we all know YouTubers. So you create a video, put it on YouTube, and if you're funny enough or popular enough, you will gain subscribers and you do revenue share with Google for the advertisement. So virtual YouTubers do exactly the same, but they are through an avatar. It's a very local and niche thing in Asia specifically, but they have millions of followers. So they are just like a real VTubers. The fact that they are avatars, it means that the only way that you can have a meaningful interaction or fan interaction is through extended reality, and that's where our technology, that's why we created technology for this sense of presence or telepresence. So this is the use case that is the earliest into adopting what we built for.
So these are people that are interacting via an avatar and have an audience via the avatar. Because of that, because an avatar, it requires more data, more rendering than if it was just a plain video. Is that right?
It is correct, and it needs that real-time interaction, low latency, etc., etc. So, for example, now actually this is great because now it's very easy to put a reference. So we have the K-pop Demon Hunters, which is very popular on Netflix.
I learned about that this summer when my daughter requested that movie to watch. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, and if you ask her, would you like to meet them in the real world? Your daughter will say, of course. What's the only way? So we will give you some classes and a service with Mawari, and then they will be able to talk to them and do all this fan interaction. So this is what is already happening at a mainstream level in Japan. So you see concerts where there's just the LED screen and a virtual avatar singing, giving a concert, but you have 30,000 people there.
Wow.
It's been happening since 2017. So that's my background. I was a virtual YouTuber producer before I started Mawari. So I understand this industry quite well. And now it evolved to a $3 billion industry just in Japan. And now Korea is adopting it. And Korea is going to spread it at a mainstream level. Next year, actually, there will be concerts of K-pop Demon Hunters. I'm 100% of that. And these fan experiences in XR, etc., etc. So this is one of our biggest drivers in the end.
And yet, if we think about this, just to take this the next step further, is if you are that group, you could do it. You could do your interactions in a studio, in a centralized place that was near a data center, would be less of a need for Mawari. But what you allow is all that content to be created in people's houses or wherever they are. So it sort of democratizes it and also puts it sort of makes it opens that up to a much wider creator community than just those who can do it in a studio that has a super high bandwidth connection near a data center, etc. Is that the point really?
That is correct, because it is remote in the end. And it all started also because of this customer service vision that we were working with KDDI, because they had some people in some call centers that could control the avatar remotely, right? So see, it started from one thing, it goes to entertainment. In the US, I mean, Disney and other players have a lot of IP that also will start following the steps of K-pop Demon Hunters. And then it turns into, just the creator economy, anybody that can create content. The other very amazing thing is in locations and online, when you are broadcasting yourself, you are not limited to just one venue. You can do several venues at the same time. So
Right,
that's
correct.
also something that we've been talking to some clients. It's like, okay, so let's set up a concert that is not just in Tokyo, but it's in Tokyo, in Osaka, and other cities simultaneously.
And are your clients then those individual creators who sign up with you, or are they companies that have creators on the payroll who then can be operating from anywhere? Like who actually signing up for your service?
The first clients are actually, yes, companies. Let's call them IP companies that do have a roster of IP creators and have the means to produce this, and they already have the 3D assets. As of 2025, actually, we onboard them. We launched, and I announced it at DePINed Day last week, what we call the V2XR platform. So this platform has that aim to become kind of like a YouTube of XR, in which it's not just going to be these companies, but eventually just anybody that is able to create content with their avatar to be able to broadcast. So that's just a start, but for now, it's just bigger corporations that have IP.
Well, let's talk about the token economics and how you design it. I'm guessing that you're paying rewards to the Guardian nodes, to your GPU providers. So how does that whole, and I know I don't think it's launched yet. So but talk about the design of that and what's kind of the inputs are and how it's going to work.
Okay, I'll try to explain as best as possible without making my lawyer angry. So, okay, so first of all, yes, the Guardian node network, they provide work to Mawari, right, by verifying the data of the stream, and for that they get rewarded. So they do a job, they get paid. So that's the basic the basic economy per se. Also for the GPUs, they render something, they get paid. And the whole point here is that we're also very careful to not on board a surplus of supply, because that would create that problem in which you need to subsidize idling GPUs with incentives, right? So we're very careful on that specific point of view in our network economy. Is since they are enterprise, they get paid at the enterprise rate, but when there is actually demand, they are on demand. And our Guardian nodes, of course, they're the core of the network. They're securing the network, so they provide the job for us to optimize the network and to verify the content. So they were rewarded for that.
And how are those rewards calculated? Is it an arbitrary number of tokens? Is it a dollar or yen value, or how do you figure out what those rewards are and how they move?
They will get paid because we haven't launched mainnet. They will get paid in Mawari token, yes, in the native currency of the network. But the pricing is in dollars because we need to price the streaming at the market rate, and that's it. So, and this is how we keep the economy stable. It's like it does not matter what the Mawari token price is. It's like if you want to stream, it is worth X amount of dollars, and then you just need to buy an exchange for the Mawari token so that you can get your service.
And will you have a fiat front end so people can just buy in dollars and sort of don't have to worry about buying the tokens themselves?
That's an interesting point because, again, for the B2XR platform, since it's going to be a B2C platform in the future, It's an interesting point that we are considering, but for now, most of the clients are more enterprise, so it's still just more on that side. Of course, there is that component that some corporations tell us, okay, we just want to pay in dollars. We have an equity company in the end, so that is also the interface. So it's a very interesting challenge, yeah, because bridging Web 2 and Web 3 in one package is challenging. Some people call us Web 2.5 because all this demand is from more traditional type of business models. So there are different ways. One way is actually, yeah, there's a company that actually is the one contracting in fiat in the Web3 world, and on behalf they purchase the supply of
the tokens
from the network. Yeah.
Well, I would say that just because your customers are Web 2, that has nothing to do if you're DePIN or not. For me, DePIN is about your infrastructure, and your infrastructure coming from a variety of contributors. And those contributors could be companies as well, but as long as it's not your bought, owned, rented infrastructure and it's other people contributing it, that is 100% deep into Web3 as far as I'm concerned.
Correct. And decentralization and blockchain is the only way to keep it transparent and align the incentives for everyone and keep the quality of services as we need it. Because again, if it could be distributed, but then exactly, Mawari would have to have billions of dollars to distribute all that compute across the world, right? And we would be the ones hedging all that risk. And here it's a shared risk. It's a thriving economy in the end, so it's totally deep in it. Yes, but the customer of that DePIN network is a Web2 customer. Yeah, we can define it that way.
I think that's great and that's normal, and I think that actually makes your life easier. You know, I actually compare, and you reference Uber, and you think about Uber and Airbnb, and the big advantage that the DePIN networks have over those companies is that they are B2C, and when you're B2C, you have to build a brand, and you have to spend billions in order to get your customer adoption. But because you are B2B, bringing enterprises, and as almost all DePIN networks are, you just need a sales force to go find those enterprises. And that reduces your marketing budget by, 99%, right? Because you just got to go get those enterprises to sign up and start being paying customers. And that is a massive advantage versus, I almost think of those Airbnb and Ubers as sort of centralized distributed networks in a way.
Mm-hmm. True.
And where I was going to go with that though is on the enterprise side for you, what is success and what is scale? So if you're thinking out 3 years, 5 years, the use cases you're talking about are so cool, but are so far from the everyday experience of people sitting in New York or in London, right? Like, and Asia leads, right? Asia is ahead of all of these markets by far, right? So I'm sure you're seeing the future over there. But if you think about, and even if it's not necessarily these avatars, but it could be glasses, whatever it may be, what is success for Mawari? Is it dollars of revenue from customer base? Is it number of GPUs online? Kind of, how do you think about metrics and what is success?
Well, success for Mawari in the end, because we started from the demand side, is to onboard more demand in the end. So it's really, if we could say it, is number of hours streamed that translates into dollars, right? That's the basic KPI. But in 3 to 5 years, and this is what I tell everyone, like, it looks like very far away, but it's happening already in Asia. So it's gonna be within the next 3 years, we will have that ChatGPT moment in AR, because really Meta, Google, Samsung, Apple are investing billions every quarter to accelerate this, and it will eventually happen. My thoughts is, since I've been in this industry now close to 12 years, is will happen within the next 3 years, as I'm seeing how the technology is advancing. And that's the other point. Since we're building an edge first network with GPUs, we are not only married to just 3D streaming only, as I told you. So we stream digital avatars, right, that need inferencing. So even these classes in your day to day is like they will need inferencing, even if it's not a digital avatar. And that's also a big tailwind for us. So success looks like, yeah, we have a XR plus AI edge network that is being used every day, and in terms of a scale, is distributed across all the countries where there's this demand.
But what about in terms of revenue numbers or hours streamed or whatever it may be? How do you, where can you go? Where can that be?
Oh, well, it's hard to say numbers. I mean, our streams, I would tell you that it's in the millions of our streams. Last year we streamed 50K, so a good number for 3 to 5 years is in the couple 7 or 8 figures most likely.
And to do that, how many GPUs do you think you need, and how many? By the way, could that happen just in Asia? Could that be just Asia? Just because I'm guessing if you're right, you see Korea and Japan grow dramatically, you could have a huge business just in those two markets. I'm guessing.
That is correct, and then the US will follow, and that's when the rest of the countries will follow. So yeah, in terms of rollout strategy, Japan, Korea, and US are core to us. How many GPUs I can't tell you, because technology is evolving as we speak. So when we started building the streaming technology, it was really one GPU, one user, and now things are changing completely. So it also will become much more efficient in that sense. It's not a linear scaling that, okay, more users, more GPUs. Is actually, if there are more users, there will be more creativity on how to make these containers work and make the rendering efficient.
I can certainly see that. It would be weird if that didn't happen. So I'm sure we'll see that be more efficient, which will make life easier for everybody, because there's not going to be enough GPUs to go around if it's the same. If the technology doesn't get more efficient. Given you've been building since 17, and you're in a very specific niche, you mentioned some projects that were inspiration for you guys. You mentioned, and we discussed Filecoin, Helium, and Render, which are kind of the 3 OGs in the DePIN space, I think. Are there any other projects that you pay attention to, think are doing interesting things in DePIN? Do you follow any others that are kind of either in your ecosystem or just broader?
Within our ecosystem, I'm not really following much per se, because most of our competitors are in Web2 in any case. But within DePIN in general, I mean, I've seen a lot of good projects with very meaningful missions that have, for example, nothing to do with virtual reality or compute. Like even there, I met founders of I forgot the name of the project right now because they changed it, but it was about ambient, just like a DePIN of how to measure the weather, or decentralized wireless.
Weather exam.
Weather exam. And for example, I met once the founder of Wi-Fi Dava, which to me was, okay, this is an amazing idea, especially because, again, DePIN, the way I see it, is also very regional. In India, decentralized wireless makes a lot of sense because it's a very densely populated country, and there could be hotspots everywhere. But for example, decentralized wireless in Texas or in Ohio doesn't make sense. So it's also very regional. So that's what I find fascinating, that DePIN has a very different approaches in the end. I mean, I'm also looking forward to collaborate with Fluence for our Guardian nodes. So that's an open invitation.
Yes, that's the right answer for sure. And listen, I think we've just launched GPUs, right? So we should hopefully be able to be helpful on that side as well. So there should be multiple ways in which we can collaborate and help you guys scale, which we're obviously very excited about as well. And what your comment though, what I also find interesting is most DePINs are Western based. You're one of the few that's rolling out in Asia first. And I can think of maybe a charging DePIN that is Asia first. So I sort of a decentralized electrical and EV charging one. And then you can obviously think of the Aether out of Singapore. But that is that's like 3 or 4 that are really Asia first. And I'm excited about what you're doing, because what you're doing is Asia first, and it is use cases which are Asia first and Asia dominated as well. And I think that is a rare thing in the space, but is kind of a bellwether, which is really cool and exciting to see. How do people follow you and get involved? They want to run a Guardian node, if they're want to follow your progress towards a launch and mainnet. How do people get involved and follow you?
A simple way is to go to Mawari.net. I was very lucky to get that domain long time ago. Mawari.com, it doesn't exist, but Mawari.net. So be very careful, because Mawari.com is something completely different.
Well,
because
you can tell it won't have as cool a logo as yours. I know that.
Yes, actually, it's a very old website, but because Mawari is a very common Japanese word. Go to Mawari.net, or in X, we are Mawari XR, and that's our main handle. We have also the Japanese X, but for people that speak English, go to Mawari XR. All the updates are there. And there's a link tree where there's a link to our Discord, to our Telegram group, to our blog, and to subscribe to our newsletter.
Fantastic. Listen, it's been great having you on, and I look forward to seeing you when when mainnet's launched, and seeing kind of how things are going and how you're scaling. I look forward to that update, and obviously look forward to seeing you at a future DePIN Day, whether it's Buenos Aires, back in Singapore, or Dubai. I know we'll see you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. Buenos Aires may be difficult. It's one of actually cities on my bucket list, but I think it will be difficult. But then you will have probably Hong Kong in February, right? So that will be probably the next one.
Awesome. Well, look forward to it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Luis.
Thank you.
The DePINed Podcast, the place where we explore real-world use cases unlocked by crypto. That's all for today. Thanks for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us grow. Add a like, add a comment. And of course, if you have anyone you think we should be talking to or have on this podcast, either leave a comment there or reach out. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.